What is going on, everybody? This is Jared with Self Mastery for Men, and welcome back to day 3 of this New Year's challenge, this New Year's workshop, where we're helping you right now in this moment set up your life on purpose. So I know we talked about on day 1, it's not about New Year's resolutions per se, but it is in the spirit of the season. It's coming up to the end of the year. We might as well take the time to do this right now together. So if you're here with us live, go ahead and comment live. Love to be able to see who's here with us here today, be able to interact with you. And if you're here watching the replay, I know it's the holiday season. I know some of you guys are busy. You're watching this later. If you're here on the replay, go ahead and comment replay so that way I can say hello to you later at some point. But we have covered a lot, haven't we? And so I want to recap with you just to see how far we've already come in this short amount of time that we've had together. But what we've covered so far is all about how to set your life up for success in the new year. And we talked about how so many people have these big goals, big declarations, don't they? But do you remember when I said that they failed? It's not according to me, it's according to research, to Forbes, to studies. Over 80% of the people fail their declarations, their New Year's resolutions by February, meaning most people don't even last a month. And we talked about why is that? Well, the reason why is because what we want to do, instead of just creating an action plan, a to-do list, we want to make this all about who we're becoming as people. And if you can step into who you're becoming as a person and not just know what you want, but who do you have to be to make that happen every single day, it makes the rest of this so much easier. So it's not about action plans, is it? It's about becoming and embodying and doing every single day something that's going to move you forward. Now, today we're going to get into what prevents you, even if you have the action plan, even if you know who you have to be, even if you have it on paper like what we've done so far this week. I'm going to show you what potentially would block you and how to fix that, but that's going to come up later here today. The other thing we talked about is we discovered the 5 questions that you need, because most people ask what when they begin. They ask, well, how do I do that? How am I supposed to do that? That's a negative way to frame it. Whenever you ask, how the heck do I do something, that's implying like, hey, I give up. That's a big pipe dream somewhere. It's like you don't actually believe it can happen. Does that make sense? So we don't want to ask, how can we do that? Or even if you ask how in a positive way, like, hey, cool, I want to do this. How do I do that? It's the wrong question, because that puts you right into action and you can do a lot of stuff that makes you feel productive. But how many times, and be honest, comment in the chat below, how many times have we done something that makes us feel like we're in action, but really it's kind of like, it doesn't move the needle forward in any way. It's just kind of action for the sake of action, right? So we don't want action for the sake of action. We want consistent action moving us towards what we want and not away from it. So the 5 questions were what? Do you remember? The 5 questions is, number 1, what specifically do you want? So what do you want specifically, right? And once you know that, a lot of people don't even know. They for example, I mentioned athletes. They go, when I was coaching athletes, I said, what do you want to do? They go, I want to make it. I said, well, what does making it mean? Well, that could just mean playing for the rest of your life on a local level. You don't want to be a local level guy. You want to be somebody who's going all the way with this. Does that make sense? So what specifically do you want? And identify and define it. And then the second thing is, once you know what you want, you have to ask yourself, who do I have to become to get it? Because if you say, hey, I want to lose a whole bunch of weight, but hey, I'm a fat, lazy slob, or every time I'm big boned and I just never keep anything going, the what you want and the who you are not aligned. Does that make sense? So as long as those things aren't aligned, it's not going to be consistent with you. So I mentioned on day 1, it was a subtle shift, but I changed the way that I look. I changed my physical health by changing, I want to be in shape, to I am a bodybuilder. And just that one thing didn't mean I was like an IFBB pro, Jay Cutler, Arnold Schwarzenegger bodybuilder, but I identified as that, and then it made it easier for me to step in and watch what I ate, go to the gym, and set habits for myself, right? What's more likely to take root? Someone that says, I want to eat healthy, or I am a vegetarian. Not that vegetarian is good or bad. The identity makes it where it's like set in stone, right? So it's not what you want, it is what you want, but it's also, who do I have to become to make that easy for me? Does that make sense so far? So then the next thing is, once you know what you want and who you have to be, the next thing you need is reasons. And you need reasons to move towards what you want, but also you want to move away from the pain of not having it. So I used that emotion as a tool, as a leverage, because a lot of people, what they do is they just beat themselves up. They just beat themselves up nonstop. Like, oh man, if I don't do this, I'm going to fail. If I don't do this, I'm a loser. You need some of that to move you towards what you want, like to move away from not having that pain. But also ask yourself the reasons. If I get this, what would that provide for me? It would give me freedom. It would give me excitement. It would give me joy. So you want a little bit of that leverage to push you away from staying where you're at, move you forward, but also enough that's going to drag you through and actually pull you to get what you want. And then the last question I said, so it was what you want, who you have to become, the reasons why you want it, and then also the resources that you need. And we talked about the example of, I'm using weightlifting and bodybuilding not because that's what you guys might want specifically, because it's an easy example that everybody can understand. You need to know the resources. So if you want to get into a health kick, but you've never been in shape before, you've never been in the gym before, you might have to know, what do I need in order to get there? I might need to read a book on it or hire an accountability coach. I hired an accountability coach where he told me, it was counterintuitive. He said, eat double, because your body's so used to eating what you're eating that your metabolism shut off. He says, eat double. And just that one thing got my metabolism going, and that resource got me moving in the right direction. So once you know what you want, who you have to become, the reasons why you want it, and the resources that you need, then and only then do you ask the question, how? Because now you have everything you need. Now it's just a matter of creating an action plan. Does that make sense? So then if you remember what we did, and we've covered a lot, we talked about how all you got to do to associate, like we talked about Arnold Schwarzenegger, the encyclopedia of a bodybuilder, the education of a bodybuilder. He imagined himself winning Mr. Olympia 5,000 times before he ever won it once. So you got to associate to this goal as if it's already done. And then when you see it as done, you reverse engineer the steps. But it's not about hitting that home run, is it? Because we talked about most people expect, because of TV, of movies, they expect, I'm going to, have that full house moment. Danny Tanner's going to come in, say that one magic word. I'm going to have the epiphany and my life is going to change forever. And we think it's going to be like the movies where you have that aha moment and life changes. Sometimes that happens, but the most successful people in the world know that they're looking for sustainable habits long term that they can stick to. Because when you make a big giant declaration, if you don't stick to it, you go, I failed. But if you can make it really easy for yourself, if I wake up every day and do this one thing, and you make sustainable small habits over time, it makes your life so much easier, and the success is almost guaranteed if you can do that. So another few things that we covered before we get into today's work, today's what we're going to cover, we talked about how the most successful people in the world also, it seems like they're being unrealistic. But if you notice, they never talk about what they don't want, don't they? Remember, I was working with a buddy of mine, and I used to hang out with him, and he was the first millionaire that I knew in person, and he never complained. And I'm like, listen, dude, like, you're not in reality here. Like, why aren't you seeing what's right in front of you? But the results spoke for themselves. He was very, very wealthy and I wasn't. And I noticed that there was a pattern. And the pattern was he always framed it in terms of what he wanted and what he didn't want. He was realistic. He saw what was in front of him, but he never paid any attention, any mind to it. He never got stuck in it long term. He always worded, well, what do I want? How am I going to make it happen? And he always spoke to himself as if it was already done. Does that make sense? And he also never said, I want this. Because want implies that you don't currently have it. It implies neediness. I want that. I want that car. I want that house. It's like you're reaching for it. What the most successful people in the world go, I now have this. And then they act as if and they're grateful for it. And when they're grateful for it in advance, it assumes that they already have it. It makes it that much easier for them to get it. Does that make sense? So that is what we covered for the first 2 days. So already, can you guys see how much more effective that's going to be than, New Year's Eve? You go, what do I want? I want to lose weight. I want to save some money. I want to have a better relationship. Put it on paper, do some stuff randomly for 30 days and then fail, right? Can you guys see? Just give me a thumbs up or a like or a heart if this makes sense to you, if you're able to commit to something like this. And by the way, who here is already committed to something like this? Who here is committed to following this process either exactly the way I had it or, hey, who am I, right? I'm just a normal guy. But who's here going to actually take what I did here and make this work for you in your own way? So comment below if you're committed. Give me a thumbs up. Give me a heart if this is what you're committed to doing so you can step into the next version of yourself. So what we're going to cover today are common roadblocks. So you have all of this stuff down on paper. When we did it on day one, we actually wrote down on paper, what do we want? Who do we have to become? Why do we want it? And then yesterday we took the outcomes, the targets, and we made it specific. We made it specific, measurable, something you could take action towards, and we made it realistic. And we put a time frame on it. So that way it was locked in place. You put a stake in the ground. You have all the building blocks needed to be able to create the life that you want. But the thing that holds people back at this point is the most overused phrase in personal development. And they say it so often, it's almost become a buzzword, and I tuned it out. But it's mindset. It's mindset. So the biggest roadblock holding you guys back from actually living this out, now that you have it on paper, is your mindset. But it's not mindset as, oh, you got to change your mind and all that stuff. It's not like this airy-fairy personal development stuff that everybody just throws around on social media. What it's all about, and I'm going to get deeper into this in a moment, but people fail because they're out of alignment. People fail this stuff because they're out of alignment. So if we go back to what we said on day one, most people fail within February. They set a goal, but they're out of alignment with who they really want, of who they really are. Because you don't get what you want, you get who you are. But the thing is, people aren't actually who they want to be on purpose unless you're really conscious of it. People are the way they are because of past conditioning and their environment. So people usually are the way they are because of past conditioning and their environment. So for example, if somebody has a lot of reference experiences of, they tried to go out for the high school team, they didn't make it as a kid, they were made fun of, their parents didn't support them, different things in the environment, they could unconsciously pick up these beliefs that no matter what I put on paper, I can try my best, but they'll never actually, there's actually a belief that they can never actually get what it is that they want. Does that make sense? But that's not a mindset issue per se all the time. Really, a lot of that is stuck in the nervous system. It's stuck in the body. So we think that we have to fix our mindset, but really it's in the nervous system, in the body. And one thing I discovered, because I've been obsessed with this for 5 years. My life was not working at all 5 years ago. I was like, I have a really good mindset. Why is none of this working for me? And the reason why is because you can't out-mindset your nervous system and your body. You can't out-mindset your nervous system and your body. I remember my girlfriend, she's like, I'm meditating all the time. I'm saying my affirmations. Nothing works for me. It's because her nervous system was in fight or flight. Her nervous system didn't believe stuff. I was the same way. You can't out-mindset, out-affirmation, law of attraction or whatever people say, your nervous system. So we're going to share with you how to fix that. But let's do this from a really logical place first. If you have a paper and a pen, write this down. When I found this really threw the light switch on for me. And I go, now I understand why my life's not working out the way that I want it to. I did this a couple years ago. So basically what happened a few years ago, I'll tell you the context of this. I was 80 pounds overweight, 6 figures in debt. I was divorced. I was living in my parents' condo. Now, they weren't living there because I'm over in Florida. They lived in New England and Massachusetts. But they had a condo. It was a very, very small one in an over 65 retirement community. And I had lost everything. I lost all my money. And I'm divorced. So I was staying in my parents' condo. But there was it was a 65 and over community. So there was an 80-year-old woman who was the HOA president. And I would have to hide from her in the dark so my parents wouldn't get evicted. It was that bad for me. And I remember one time, like, my debit card's getting declined. I'm like 31 at the time. And I'm just like, my life wasn't meant to be this way. And I just got so down on myself. But I finally said, something's going to change right now. I can't go on like this anymore. And I got to make the change immediately. Because if it doesn't, remember what I told you, all the reasons why you have to do it in terms of the pain you're going to get if you stay, but also what's the reasons why, like what good would happen if you had it. So I got all the leverage on myself that I needed. But then I sat down about 3 a.m. I wrote out this list. And this, I call it like my life's dashboard, right? But really, it's the 7 levels of self-mastery. So if you have a paper and a pen, go ahead and write this down. This This to me put everything on paper, and it showed me, even though I had the right to-do list, even though I had the right intentions, why things weren't working out for me. So if you take a piece of paper, take a moment and do that now, and go ahead and write down 1 through 7. 5, 6, 7. I'm going to do it here with you. So if you think of this, everybody has all 7 of these things, the 7 levels of self-mastery. Everybody operates in all 7 of these. But the catch-22 is the ones that are higher up on the list have more of an influence over the ones that are lower on the list. They're all important, but the ones that are higher up on the list have more influence than the ones on the lower part of the list. So if you write down number 1 is your connection to something even better than even greater than yourself. So that could be whatever you believe in, universe or God or just there's something guiding you that's higher. It's like your guiding force. So there's something even higher than you that's guiding your life. Like you're here for a mission of some kind, right? But that's more than just what you do, your vocation. It's like you feel like you're guided in some way. So that's number 1, is this higher vision, the spiritual vision for your life. Number 2 is your actual purpose. So that's your purpose. So your purpose and this spiritual vision, kind of 2 different things. That's more of like a high level concept. This is more of like, what am I put on the planet to do? So you need a purpose. Now, number 3 is your identity. It's who you believe yourself to be. So number 3 is identity. So it goes basically, there's a guiding force, there's a higher principle, there's something bigger than yourself. There's your purpose on the planet, or the purpose for you being here, your mission, your identity. And then number 4 is your beliefs. So number 4 is your beliefs. It's what you believe to be true. Now, beliefs really are just assumptions that you've made. They're decisions that you made. Sometimes when you're young, like money's hard to make. People don't like me. People are hard to get along with, right? The beliefs are decisions, like water is wet. Some are useful, some aren't, but you've picked them up along the way, and sometimes they're not even conscious. But then, so number 5, it goes, purpose, identity, beliefs. Number 5 now is your resources and capabilities. So it's resources, skills, and capabilities. This is what you have access to. It's your knowledge. It's the resources you have available to you. Okay. And then, so number 6 now is your habits and your action plan. Number 6 now is your habits and your action plan. So this is a lot of what we got into today. The number 7 is your environment. So environment could be your relationship, meaning the person you spend the most time with. It could be your peer group. It could mean your house, right? If your house has mold, like what me and my girlfriend had, we had mold. It's a bad environment. You got to switch the environment to change it up. If you want to be an entrepreneur, but nobody in your family ever did, it's going to be more difficult for you because there's nobody supporting you in the environment. You'd have to find yourself in a peer group of people that are all growing, that would help support that. Does that make sense? So number 7 is your environment. Now, so we have a higher principle here. So number 1 is a higher principle, something above and beyond yourself that's guiding you in some way, no matter what you believe. Number 2 is your purpose. Number 3 is your identity. Number 4 is beliefs. 5 is your resources. 6 is habits, and 7 is environment. And we all have all of this to some degree. And the ones that are higher up on the list influence more greatly the ones on the bottom. So I'm going to show you how this works. And here's where most people get trapped. Go ahead now and put a circle around 5 through 7. So go ahead and put a circle through 5 through 7. People get stuck in a perpetual loop between 5 and 7. And this is where people get stuck for most of their life. I'm going to explain to you how this works. Let's use, for example, a New Year's resolution, because that's the topic of this workshop. Somebody has an idea of something they want to do. I want to lose weight. I want to make more money. I want to quit my job and start a business. What they first do a lot of times is they go, what do I need to do? So what's that? That would be a habit or an action. What do I have to do? So they start doing something and they make a little bit of progress. It doesn't work right away, or it doesn't work as fast as they want to. So what do? They bump up to number 5 in a circle, right? And they go, what resources do I need? What books do I need? What education do I need? And then what they'll do is they'll buy a book, they'll go to a seminar, they'll hire a coach, they'll do something, and they'll get information. A lot of marketers prey on this, right? Like, hey, here's the fastest way to get six-pack abs in 30 days without dieting, right? I need the information, I got to do it. But information isn't always enough. So people go and they get all these new resources. But what it doesn't do is it doesn't make a long-term lasting change. What'll happen, just like in February, people do it for a while and drop right back down. So then what they do is they change their habits some more. I got to be more adamant about my habits. And they double down on it. They make it stricter on themselves. And that doesn't work. So they go, I got to get more knowledge and resources. So they do that, and that doesn't work. And they keep doing that over and over and over again until what? They burn out. They get frustrated. They reach like a roadblock or a wall, and they go, it's my environment. So now what people do is they loop down to the environment, and they change their relationship, right? They go, it's because I'm in the bad relationship, and they change it. Or they go, I'm in a bad job, and they change it. Or I gotta leave my hometown, and they move across the country or something like that. Or they change their friend group, or they change something different about themselves because they think if they change the environment, it's gonna make life easier. And it does for about 6 months. And then they realize what happens. They're in the same relationship with a different person. They changed jobs, moved across the country, and it seemed good at first, but they're still getting the same level of income that they had before. They're not getting promoted the way they want to. And it just keeps looping over and over and over again until people finally get fed up, and they can do this the rest of their lives, can't they? Or sometimes they go, none of this stuff works. It's all BS. I'm just going to settle. And so this is what people get stuck in. Does that make sense? Who here is following me so far? Give me a thumbs up, give me a like, give me a comment if this is making sense. And where have you possibly seen either yourself or someone you know fall into this trap? It's a very common thing. I've fallen into this. Everybody that I know and talk to and work with has fallen into this at some point. This is a really common thing. And so how do you fix this? Well, you fix this because most people, what they're not focused on is they focus on the bottom three. What they don't focus on, though, is the top four, where they don't get real clear on their purpose or their identity or their beliefs or their reasons why, right? So let's say that you get all the habits, all the action plans, you change the environment, you get all the books, but your identity is, well, I'm never going to make it. I'm a fat guy. I'm out of shape. I'm a failure. I'm a loser, right? If that's how you identify as, or I'm not someone I've never been consistent before, right? If that's your identity, that's going to make it so much harder for you to sustain any of the bottom actions, right? And then also, it's not just your identity, but it's also the beliefs that you have. And so a lot of times these beliefs are so difficult because they're ingrained in you. They're in your nervous system, because the way the brain works, I don't want to get too deep into this, but I want to give you the overview. The way the brain works is the brain is designed, like the number one directive of the brain is to keep you safe. So like the prime directive of the unconscious mind is protect the body at all costs, right? So anything that the brain or the body or the unconscious or the nervous system thinks is in danger to you, you're going to avoid like the plague. And a lot of it isn't even rational, is it? So for example, if you ever touch the stove as a kid, you touch the stove and like your hand goes away. Like, did you touch the stove and go, oh man, that's hot. I should probably take my hand off of that and never do that again, right? That would be a logical belief that you adopted and you decide consciously to not do that anymore. But you don't do that. What do? You go, right? And it's your nervous system. And before you even think about it, your body's responded. And now whenever you see fire, you instinctively, your body knows to push away from it, right? You don't think about it. You can't override yourself from doing that. You can't be like, I believe that I'm not going to get burnt by putting my hand in this fire, and then it doesn't happen, right? You can't out-mindset your nervous system. Your nervous system says, no, I want to move away from that, right? So, but it just doesn't happen with fire. That happens in your life. So I was working with a guy, and he has a really hard time in relationships. And I was asking him, I go, what happens in relationships? He goes, they just never work out for me. I end up self-sabotaging, or I go to make it happen and then something blows up, or it just doesn't work the way I want to, or the girl ends up leaving me, or I find some problem with her. And they always seem to leave me when times get tough. They always seem to leave me when times get tough, right? And I asked him, I said, well, well, tell me about that. And so what happened was, the first time he ever asked a girl out when he was in kindergarten, she said, and it was like a stock phrase that her mother probably told her to say because she was like 5, right? But he asked the girl out and she goes, I like you as a friend, but not a boyfriend. Like that, right? Like very, I like you as a friend, but not as a boyfriend. Like as a 5-year-old girl would say that to some guy. Stock phrase that she was told to say by her parents. As a 5-year-old boy, though, he links up women equal pain. You see? And it's in his nervous system. He's decided that women equal pain. It's not a logical thing. It just happened. So now whenever he goes to put himself in a social situation with women, his nervous system starts to act up. He gets all nervous because to him that means survival. It means if I ask that girl out, I'm going to be embarrassed. So he can be like, what's my goal? I got to go talk to 10 women a day as my habit. But he doesn't do it because it represents danger to him. Does that make sense? Or this happens in so many other aspects of life. This could happen where, for example, if you went to go lift weights, but people always made fun of you as a kid. Oh, you're fat. Oh, you're out of shape. Oh, you'll never do it. And they just beat you up nonstop. That could realistically make you actually believe that you're not worth anything. So that's going to hold you back long term. Now, it's not always necessarily this. It could be simple stuff where you're the product of your environment, your parents, your conditioning, the people you grew up with, your school system, the education, the city you grew up in. So if you grew up where the people that you loved most were always saying like, hey, money's tight, money's difficult, it's hard to make, the rich people are no good, money doesn't buy happiness, all that stuff, you adopt all of these beliefs and conditionings, and it's in your nervous system, in your body, that's true. And until you can make the unconscious conscious, you're going to keep repeating that, and you're not going to be able to make the progress that you really want. Does that make sense? So beliefs are radically important. You got to be able to shift these, or else you're not going to be able to get what you really want. Another thing, though, is an identity conflict. This is why sometimes people don't always get what they want. They have an identity conflict. So let me ask you this. Have you ever had a situation where part of you knows you want to do something, but another part of you doesn't? So part of you wants to do something, but another part of you doesn't. Like, I want to go to the gym, but a part of me doesn't. Or I want to start a business, but a part of me is lazy. And there's like, they call it a parts conflict. How many people have something like that in their life? So consider that. It's almost like you're fighting against yourself, isn't it? So no matter what happens, no matter what types of habits or things, like, you know better, as long as you have the internal conflict where part of you wants something and part of you doesn't, it's going to be like moving against molasses to try to make it happen. There is a guy that I really respect. He says, people go through life with the equivalent of a rocket ship on their back and an anchor. There's the equivalent of the rocket ship on your back. So the rocket ship provides the thrust to move forward, but the anchor holds you back and it's dragging you. That's all your reference experiences. It's all your internal conflicts. So you can only move forward as fast as you can cut that stuff. Does that make sense? And so if you can cut the anchor, what you're able to do is you're able to make so much more progress quickly. And so that's really been my obsession since I changed my life about 5 years ago. But does that make sense? Comment below what you're getting from this so far. I want to check in and see what you guys are getting. And I should, technical difficulty since yesterday, my internet's been really weird, but I'm gonna check to see if there's any comments here. If not, I'll come back to this and be able to answer you guys tomorrow. But I want to just check the comments quickly to see if there's anybody that I can answer. Just want to make it. Yep. Okay, cool. Got you guys. All right. So share with me below, what are the top 1 or 2 things you're getting from this so far and what makes sense? And if you were really honest with yourself, maybe even write this down or share it in the chat. You don't have to put it publicly if you don't want to. But if you were really honest with yourself, what do you think could potentially hold you back from getting what it is that you want? What do you think that could potentially hold you back from getting what it is that you want in this upcoming new year? Could it be a belief that's been holding you back? Could it be an unconscious assumption? Could it be that you don't have the right resources? Could it be that your environment doesn't support you? Could it be that you have like an internal conflict somewhere? So actually, I think maybe the best way to do this, just to keep it organized, is take a look at this list, the 7 levels of self-mastery, purpose, identity, beliefs, resources, habits, and environment. Where do you think your gaps are? And put that down. Do you think that you don't have a strong enough purpose? And by the way, your purpose in life doesn't have to be like, I'm going to go save the planet. But it could just be like, I want to be the best dad. Or it doesn't have to be like your purpose for the rest of your life. Just what's your purpose or your mission or where's your direction for the next 3 to 6 months, right? But do you even have one? Some people don't. And like I said, the ones that are higher up on the list influence more strongly the ones lower on the list. So it would be really important for you right now to take a look. Where are any potential conflicts or missing pieces? So that way you guys can handle it. So do you think that maybe you need to have a stronger purpose, perhaps? I don't know, but take a look at that and go ahead and write that down. Is there an identity conflict? Is it like, what are you saying I am to? Are you saying I can make this happen? Or are you saying, I've never done that. I don't know how I'm going to make this work. How are you identifying? Is there a parts conflict? Is there part of you that wants to do something and part of you that doesn't think you can? Or part of you that thinks that you're not able to, right? What do you think could potentially get in the way? Is there a tug of war internally? Do you think maybe you need to upgrade some of your beliefs? Maybe you have some assumptions in there that you didn't even know that you had. Like money's hard to make, or I can't get in shape, or relationships are dangerous because the first girl that I ever asked out said no. Right? And sometimes we just got to update these, right? Because imagine if you got an iPhone when they first came out and you never updated the software. Do you think it would still work today? It wouldn't. Even the iPhone you got a year ago, they've software updated it since then, haven't they? Right? So every once in a while, you got to like clear the cache of your unconscious mind, and because you just picked it up all up along the way, and update it to actually support you now where you're at, right? So now think about this. Do you think maybe there's a gap in your resources? Do you need to get some knowledge somewhere? Is there a book that you could probably buy? Like for me, I got Encyclopedia of a Bodybuilder. I got Burn the Fat, Feed the Muscle. When I wanted to learn about getting myself out of debt, I bought I Will Teach You to Be Rich. I also bought The 5 Mistakes Every Investor Makes. So a lot of really great books out there that you can learn resources from. Do you need an accountability partner or a coach? Can you enroll somebody as like your friend to help you? Or like I knew that I could lose weight because I lost 80 pounds. I lost the first 60 by myself, but the last 20 were difficult. I brought a coach on board. He told me some counterintuitive stuff I would have never thought of. He's like, hey, Jared, you did a great job losing the first 60, but you put yourself in a calorie deficit. What you really have to do is double your calories for a couple months to spike your metabolism and then start to bring it down a little bit each week. You'll lose weight again. I did that, changed everything. I lost another 20. Or do you think maybe there's a challenge with your habits? And if there's a challenge with your habits, we've just covered that on day 1, day 2. But also maybe you don't have to do something big. What if you just made the rules really easy for yourself? I remember when I first started losing weight, I was like, all I got to do instead of going to the gym an hour a day, 2 hours a day, every day of the week, what if I just go for 15 minutes? And I made it so simple that I couldn't fail. And once I got in for 15, I stayed for 30. And then it was so fun that I kept going every day, right? A habit could be, I don't have to make $1 million this year, but what if I just save 10% every paycheck? That would that's what I mean about habits. Small, consistent daily habits will take you to an entirely different place if you let it compound over time, right? So you need some more habits. Or maybe you need some help with your environment. Maybe the people that you surround yourself with, they're great people, but they're not helping you get to the next level because they're playing small. Maybe you're the only entrepreneur in your family, the only person that wants to have a business. Maybe you're the only person in your school or in your hometown that has ambition. Or maybe you're not surrounded by people that are moving in the right way. Or maybe your relationship, right? Your relationship's not supportive of you. Do you need to make a change in your environment? And I would just caution you before you make a change in your environment, though, like if it's to end a relationship or change a job, make sure that it's not actually something up on the higher part of the list first. Because the truth is, wherever you go with you. So you want to make sure that you're handled first before you make a big wholesale change in your life. Does that make sense? So comment below, where do you think maybe some of your gaps are that could potentially be holding you back? You wrote what you want. You wrote who you have to become. You wrote why you want it. But now we just got to make sure that we avoid any of these potential pitfalls so that way you can make sure that this lasts, unlike the people that fail in February. Who here's up for that? So just comment below what you think maybe the 1 or 2 things that could hold you back could be. So that is really what I've been obsessed with, guys. And that's been my obsession for the past 5 years. Because I told you, if you actually do this, I promise you it'll change your life. It's not a get rich quick thing. It's not your life's going to turn around tomorrow thing. I think what happens a lot of times is these guys are marketers, and a lot of coaches out there, a lot of people out there, the coaching industry has become kind of polluted by people that are really good marketers but aren't really coaches. Does that make sense? So what they do is like, here's how to lose weight in 30 days without going to the gym. Here's how to make a lot of money by doing this one Facebook ad strategy. And they make it seem like a magic pill, quick fix thing, but that's going to lead to something that's unsustainable and unrealistic, and it's going to burn you out, and then you're going to get jaded because you don't think anything works. It's not that nothing works. This will work, and it's the fastest way I know how. But it's not going to be a magic pill. You're just going to be committed to putting the work in. Does that make sense? So that was really my story. I had all the resources. I had all the knowledge. I had all the skills, but I hadn't figured out this purpose, identity, beliefs part of it yet. And I hadn't actually made it a part of who I became. So I told you, I was at my parents' condo, 80 pounds overweight, 6 figures in debt. I was dating a woman. My debit card's getting declined. And she's like, why? Like you need to step up. And I was going to lose everything, right? Because I had lost my marriage. I had lost my house. I had lost all of my money. I was in really bad shape. This woman liked me. I was really excited to be with her. My debit card's getting declined. I knew that I was so much more than I was demonstrating, right? I knew who I was inside. I knew my potential, but I wasn't living it. And the thought of losing her, that would have meant that I lost everything. So I got really set, like, I need to fix this right now. And so that night I figured out, like, my purpose was, I'm going to figure this out. Because if I can figure this out, and if I can turn around my finances, if I can turn around my health, if I can turn around my relationships, if I can become the version of me on the inside, like where I'm at right now or was really bad, if I can get out of this, I can help anybody. So my purpose became, if I solve this, I'll be able to help anybody else do this, right? And that was my true north, and that's what got me out of it. And then so once I created the identity for myself and I switched the beliefs and I got rid of the internal conflicts, and it took me a little while to do it, but I know how to do it, so now I can do this with other people. What I noticed is within a very short amount of time, the 80 pounds came off. The finances came back. I got out of debt. My relationships turned around, right? And it's not because I'm so special, but it's because I knew these techniques. And I went from just knowing them, changing my habits, to actually becoming and identifying myself in a new way. And so now what I'm actually best known for, I've been working with a group of guys in all different capacities. Some people have been the captains of airlines. Some people just want to be better, husbands to their wives. Some people want to become pro athletes. But what I do now is I help them get rid of all of the internal conflicts. I help them get rid of all the conditioned beliefs. We get them past all these past experiences that are holding them back from getting what they really want. We identify and create the action plan. We give them the right resources. We set them up for success, and they have an entirely different life. I was just working with a guy not too long ago. We did a process. We took about an hour, and we put everything on paper, and it was all unconscious stuff. But he put this on paper, and he goes, I have never seen this before, but it's all right here. He goes, now I know why my life hasn't been working the way I want it to be. And then what we do is all we're able to do is we consciously shift it. I show him how to condition the new identity, change the new beliefs. He has an entirely different life. So that's what this is all about. And that's what I'd love to be able to offer you guys to do. Now, really, like, I don't know if it would be the right fit for you, right? So really, like, I'm not here to pitch you. I'm not here to sell you on anything. But we've spent about 3 days now getting deep on what it is that you want, who you want to become, where it is you want to go, how to write the habits. If you think or if you feel like there could be some challenges that you want some help with, I've opened up my calendar for about 15 minutes. It's not going to take too long. Like I said, I'm not sure if it's going to be able to help everybody, but if you think it would be useful, I'll drop a link in the chat for 15 minutes and I'll just get really clear with you on how this could help you in your life, where some of your challenges are now, where you want to go. And if there's a conflict, I can show you how we can get rid of those. Okay? So that's something I'd like to be able to do for you because there's only so much that I can cover in like 45 minutes to an hour in 3 days. But if you want to go personally do a deeper dive with this, I'm more than happy to take about 15 minutes with you guys, actually get to know you and your story, where you see yourself going, what some of the challenges have been. And what I can do is I could use some of my expertise and what I've used to help countless other people. I can see how that could potentially work for you to help you get to where you want to go in the new year. So I'm going to put that link here below in the chat. Give me 1 second to go pick up my, be able to pick up my, my live. I'm going to put the link here in the chat if this is something that you're into. So it should be here in the chat right now. So if you want to schedule your 15-minute call, totally free, no pressure. All I want to do is I want to figure out, where you are now, where you want to go, if there's been some conflicts, what's been preventing you from getting what you want. And if it's a good fit, if what I'm doing could help you, I'll lay out a plan for you. If not, no big deal either way. But I'll be able to point you in the right direction at least. Because here's the thing, like I'm not some marketer guy. Like I'm not promising you like in 30 days, you're gonna, be a millionaire. But what I can promise you is all of this is from real practical experience. This isn't just from like some book, or this isn't because I read it somewhere or heard it from somebody else and I'm repeating it. This is all like in the trenches, like in the depths of myself, like figuring out what worked because nothing else did. But this was able to transform everything in my life simultaneously. My health, my finances, my wealth, my relationships, everything. It would have been insurmountable to do all that individually. But because I figured this out, this was like, here's the one thing that shifts it all. If you can figure this out, this can make a gigantic change in your life in a very short amount of time. Not a quick fix, not the magic bullet, not a magic pill, but it's the most sustainable long-term thing that I've ever seen to be able to take somebody and get them really to go from who they know they're capable of being on the inside, from just being potential to living their potential. So I'd be more than happy, it'd be my honor to work with you guys and talk with you and just see where you're at. About 15 minutes, figure out where you are now, where you want to go, what's holding you back. If I can even help you, I can lay out a plan of what that could look like. And if not, that's no big deal. But we've covered a lot. So I want to wrap this up. I think this has given you a lot to think about for the new year. But so share with me in the comment section, what has been the biggest out of the past, not just today, but out of the past 3 days, what's been the biggest takeaway, the biggest aha moment that you got from today or from the past 3 days? What's been the biggest aha moment from this? What do you think would really be able to serve you well to make it not just like a to-do list, not just a New Year's resolution, not just a big giant declaration, but something that can make a real lasting change in your life? So comment below. I'd love to hear from you. What has been like the biggest thing you got from this week, from the past 3 days? And that's it for now, guys. It's been a pleasure, being your trainer here. It's been a pleasure helping you guys. My biggest joy in life is seeing the light bulb go off on people, because I know what it was like to be so far the other way, right? So I just love seeing the light bulb go on. I love seeing people make progress. That lights me up when I see people really getting the results that they want in their life. So that's why I did this, guys. I wanted you guys to be able to make real results in the new year, whether or not we talk again in the future. But I wanted to give you a resource you'd be able to have and watch back on replay. So that's it for now. This has been the Self Mastery for Men 3-day New Year's Challenge Workshop. I like that, the Challenge Workshop. I'm going to make everything that from now on. The 30-day Challenge Workshop. I'm going to do that. This has been the New Year's Challenge Workshop. It's been great working with you, great being your trainer here. I'd love to be able to chat with you guys, 15 minutes, seriously, no pressure. Figure out where you are now, where you want to go, what's been holding you back. I put the link in the chat below. I've opened up some spots from now until the end of the year. And that's it for now, guys. Great here working with you, and I'll see you soon. Have a great holiday. Bye.